My name is Brandon, and I am starting to do a few fun things on this channel. Some of them are fountain pen reviews, so I thought I would talk a little bit, hopefully pretty briefly, about why I would do that, because why not? So how long have I been using fountain pens? I've been using them for about 3 years total, and, before that I didn't. I'm not gonna say I didn't. I thought they didn't exist anymore because that would be ridiculous. Like I knew they did, but I just did not think that they were, you know, a thing. I didn't, I just never saw them. No one used them, so I never thought of it really. I went all the way through college. I don't remember anyone ever using one, so I don't know. But I was working in Texas, oddly, when a woman named Angie, who I knew, she gave me one. She had like a disposable Bic, and I was using it, and I was like, "Oh, I love this pen. This is fantastic." And she was like, "Oh, keep it. Yeah, that's all I ever use. I just use those." And so I started writing with that one that she'd given me, and it lasted forever. Well, I'd say it probably lasted about, I don't know, well over half a year, and I wrote with it quite a bit. So that was interesting. So when that ran out, I got some new ones. The things that I love the feel of it. I like that it wrote so smoothly and so easily, and my handwriting was fantastic looking. I thought. I know it's not really, but I like to think sometimes that it looks good because I use a fountain pen. The illusion is important. But the caps did crack really easily over time, and I just tossed them in a bag usually and carried them around that way. So when that would happen, the cap would start popping off, and you had to be careful at that point. It's surprisingly not a lot of like ink spills, even though that was happening. But I had to start like securing things, and you know, I didn't want to have to buy a new one before it was out, which is just how I am, I guess. So I fidgeted with them and figured it out, but it was a pain in the butt, and it wasn't really worth the effort. And the other thing is that you can't really choose different kinds of nibs or inks. And the nibs I didn't think of at first, but inks for sure. I was like, you can do red, blue, or black, and that's it. So I got online and I did some googling to see sort of how far fountain pens had come since the inky days of yore. And it turns out that those days are mostly myth, I guess. It's not like you're constantly covered with ink on your hands if you use fountain pens. I don't have any now, but sometimes I do. I don't have a problem with that though. I really like having ink on my hands. I think it makes me look like a classy mofo for show, but just for show because it's not really. I'm not. So I like that. You mostly just get on your hands though when you're doing like the cleaning part, because then you're actually getting into the inky parts of the pen. So that's fine. It's and it does come off. It's not like it's a nightmare or anything. I haven't found one that's terrible yet. So I learned all that stuff. I started learning about the different kinds of pens that there are. I watched some videos by what's his name? SBRE Brown, and he was very interesting, really helpful. I recommend him always. So he does tons and tons of reviews and kind of goofy stuff. He seems like an interesting character. I like him. But that pretty much sealed the deal for me. He had a couple videos on like how to use fountain pens, what the upkeep is like, how to pick your first few fountain pens, and that was really helpful, I thought. But also, a lot of the pens that he had, were the lower side. I think were very utilitarian pens, and I liked that. So things that they were sort of made to be used and designed to be more for the masses type of thing. I guess I don't imagine myself owning a Mont Blanc anytime ever, really. Yeah, I'm not sure that I would. I mean, I'm sure it'd be fun to write with, but I'm not. I don't care. So. But I like something you can use, and I like that there was a lot of that around. So I started looking into those. Let's see. My first legit fountain pen was a Noodler's Ahab demonstrator, and it was this guy right here. I've got the nib and feed in here for whatever reason, but that was my first one. I loved the way it looked. I liked the feel of it. I read a lot of reviews that all said it was really good, but they all said sometimes you have to tinker with them a little bit to get them to write just the way you want them to. And I found that I tinkered with mine for quite a while, but it always had like a lot of like heavy flow on the ink, and no matter what ink I used, and so most of the paper I was using at the time was feathering like crazy. So I would mess with it and adjust it and do this and do that, and then I would try it for a while. I'd get tired of that. I'd put it away, and then I'd pull it back out again later and try it again at some other time. And that went on for a while. I was just never really happy with it because I could not get it right myself. And I watched a bunch of videos, and I didn't do any of I didn't try to reheat set the nib or anything, or the feed or anything like that. I could probably have done so, but I did not want to. So I instead, looked into some other ones. Started getting I went on kind of a Chinese pin binge, I guess you'd say, because they were incredibly cheap, and I was thinking, this is a flex nib. I wanted to try some different kinds of nibs that were more what I'd been used to with the Bic. So I grabbed a bunch that were all on. I paid, I think, no more than like $4 for any of these pins that I've got here. So with shipping even, because I just went on there, found the auctions, and bought the ones that looked kind of interesting to me and that I would like to own. So I got these two little guys for my son because I thought he might like to do the same kind of stuff that I do, because he does that sometimes. So these are little hero pins. They are hooded nibs. A lot of like plastic and kind of like really thin, sort of easy, cheap metal for the barrels, but this one's got a little chick on it. And this one has got, I thought this was like a little video game controller down here. I don't know if this is going to help or hurt, but boom, there we go, try that. But yeah, I thought this was a little video game controller down here. It turns out it is some sort of bunny rabbit with a bow on its head. So this is all weird little kind of animated stuffed animals and chicks. So kind of fun, I don't know, but they're really cool, they're cute. This one is actually awesome. I actually really like this pen. It's got a little rubbery grip, and the nib is actually not bad. It probably needs to be smooth, but I haven't written with it for a while. It's a little dry. It's pretty dry. But I like it. The cap really clicks on like sort of comfortably and funny, little, like a really light little, it's like it's giving it a hug. But on the back also really nicely posts. So, and it's a perfectly good size, normal size pen, not huge fountain pen size, which is fun sometimes. But, so those are more him than me, but he doesn't really play with them too much yet. So, either way, they're around. But each one of those I think cost me like 99 cents. And then maybe $3, $2 shipping. Overall, not too bad. Why did I get into pens, I suppose? I really don't like having like drawers full of a bunch of disposable, dried out, crappy ballpoint pens. I'm always trying to compile them into the same drawer and put them in a little basket, and even then it's like, what's the point? They should just be thrown away. I don't know why, but every house has those. They all are around. I don't like the idea of it. I'm not comfortable with the disposable sort of idea. I'm trying hard not to be as disposable about everything, and I have been for a little while now. It's a slow process, but I feel like that's a big step right there, because pens are something that people just don't. They're one of the many things that people don't even think about. Like you buy them by the dozen, several dozen. And if you use one for a while, it starts to dry out or it doesn't work right, you just throw it away, you get a new one, and it's just so much garbage, and it's ridiculous. So I don't like that idea. I like the idea of having pens that are designed to be kept for the long haul and to be worked on especially, which is why I like the Noodlers a little bit, because as much as they have flaws and things, they're not perfect by any stretch, and I find I use the other pens a lot more often now. But those are still good go-to guys for like letter writing, things like that, sometimes. But I like the idea that I can tinker with them and change them and make them more to my liking and do some weird stuff with them if I want to. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? I also love the feel of the pen on the paper. That's the other thing I like about fountain pens. They are just super smooth. It's if it's a good nib, it works really well. And there's no resistance for the most part, and also you don't have to push. You don't have to I hated writing with a pen. I would get cramped because I wrote all bass-backwards. I would hold the pen like I was a lefty with my right hand and kind of do one of these things. I don't know why. But as soon as I started using fountain pens, I kind of had to adjust the way I hold the pen, and now my handwriting is much more consistent, at least, if not better. And so that's nice. So I do like my handwriting better with fountain pens. Like I said, I do wholeheartedly believe that it looks better and fancier than it did before. It looks more like I'm trying to be somewhat italic when I write, versus before where it was just like a scribbly lean to the right kind of handwriting. I like the expressiveness of the inks that you can use. I have a lot of Noodler's inks, and let's see if we can show this. I have got some samples that I have amassed over the last year and a half. So, but these guys, I got onto the Goulet ink drop, and I was on that for quite a while, and we'll get back on it for sure. But I have a ton of inks, and I use them for art projects. I make a lot of like cards and postcards and things, so that's good to have a lot of options. But I like to have options when I'm writing letters, especially because I do a lot of that. And I do not get a lot of letters, as it turns out. I write a lot, but it's only now starting to pay back a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. But I like to write letters, and I like to be, I like to be a little expressive. And if I'm in a certain mood, or if there's a certain tone I'm trying to convey, it's fun and a little extra nerdy to add a little something to it with the color. I always ask people what their favorite colors are, so I'll know what to write their notes in. The other fun thing about fountain pens, and this is one of the best things, one of the reasons I kind of let myself go with them, is that I've been trying to, over the last, I don't know, not quite a year yet even, I've been trying to do a lot more writing, because I used to write quite a bit. When I was younger, I wrote a lot of, like, I didn't ever keep a journal, I was bad at that. But I wrote a lot of poetry, and I wrote a lot of, like, creative writing stuff. I took a ton of notes in college. That was predominantly how I learned anything, was just writing it down, and that would work. But I don't know. I fell out of it after a while, I guess. And once you're out of college, you're not doing as much writing. So typically, and I was working a different kind of job, so I didn't do it as much. But having a really nice pen with a really cool ink, and having some slightly fancier paper, it doesn't have to be insanely expensive, but I think having some nice smooth paper that really does good with that sort of thing, it is something that makes you want to write more. And I can't wait to write with my new pen or whatever, but I'm going to have to write something, so I don't just sit there and write out words. I don't do automatic writing. I write in a journal, or I'll write some comedy bits if I'm doing some comedy work. Sometimes I write about the pens. I'll do a short review of it, just so I'll remember how the nib feels and how it feels in my hand, what I like about it, what I don't love about it. I just love doing that, and it makes me want to do it more. And the more I play with them, the more I have them, the more options I have to write, and the more reasons I have to write, so I'm doing it all the time now. And that is exactly what I wanted to do, so the two hobbies really tied together nicely, and I like that. So that's a really good reason to do it. If you are one of those people who feels like you used to be more able to do that sort of thing, or you used to be more motivated to write, and for whatever reason you've lost that kind of a thing, I know a lot of people who agree with what I just said, that having a hobby that relates to writing, makes you kind of write as part of the hobby, will make you write, and that's not a bad option, so I like that too. Finally, I also really like objects to have a lot of history, and if not history, then to have the potential for a lot of history. So when I'm buying a fountain pen, I try to take good care of them. I'm sure that I screwed up a couple of them here and there at the beginning, but I like having them around. I like knowing that I could pass those on to my son, obviously, if he wanted to have some. I could certainly, and have been, passing them along to friends, people who I think would be interested or who might write me back. And that has worked out pretty well on occasion, rare occasions. So I certainly appreciate it when it does, always. But it's a fun thing to do, and it's fun to know that kind of stuff when I buy a pen. Like I recently got a Schaefer snorkel from my mom for Christmas, and she didn't really know anything about it, but she saw it at a place and knew I was interested in fountain pens, so she got it for me. It's the only one I have that has a 14-karat gold nib. It's being worked on right now. I have it over here, but I'm not going to bring it yet. I'll show you that when it's functional and awesome. We'll do a review. But I'm interested in that sort of thing as well, and learning the history of those kinds of items, and like I said, investing in the ones that I'm getting with a little bit of history of their own. I think that's a good idea. It's fun. It's cool. It gives it a little bit more meaning. It's something more interesting. So if you could say, like, I have the fountain pen that so-and-so used to write his novel or to take his notes, if it's a journalist that you like or something like that, then that's an interesting thing. It's something that makes it a little bit more interesting, more noteworthy. So I'm not doing anything quite so grandiose right now with my life, but I enjoy knowing that they're around, and that everything I do and everywhere I take them, something is being sort of attached to them, if that makes sense, I guess. And some of it only I will know, but a lot of it, you can sort of tell people about or pass it down when you pass the thing along. So that's a cool idea, and I like that. I'm going to flip my notes here that I do have and that I am totally using. So quickly, what has sort of been the evolution of me as a fountain pen user? I still really like the utilitarian aspect of fountain pens. That's my favorite thing about them. I like to collect things that you can use. I hate to collect things that have no purpose. And that's the worst part. So I am a bit of a pack rat collector type person. I do tend to collect a lot of different things for short bursts of time. But then once I realize that if something is not useful to me or I don't want to use it anymore, I tend to stop using it. I've done that with a bunch of stuff. I used to collect pipes, and I have various different games that I used to play that required a lot of pieces or characters or cards or whatever. And I just given all that up over time because I just don't do it as much. But I like things that you can use. I like things that are meant to be useful and that are designed with that in mind, specifically with the idea that you would want to use it and they want to make it the best experience that they can, which is actually still true with pipes. I still like them. I think they're cool. I just don't smoke them. So that's one big one. I'm really motivated to find good quality but inexpensive pens that anybody could use and enjoy, and also that anyone could find. Like I said, I mean, there are places where there's no fountain pen stores. There's places where there's not much in the way of a writing store in general in a lot of the world when you get down to it, but definitely around here. So it's nice to know that there's a lot of stuff you can just find online. The Goulet pen stores where I've gotten most of my more upscale pens. eBay is where I've gotten all the other ones pretty much. And later on I want to try and do some hunting for some vintage pens because I have been getting into that a little bit. And I think that might be the next step that I want to go in. But I might do some videos about that too, like ways to hunt for them, things like that, because that's not something I've seen a lot of out there either. But that'll only really work if I'm successful, so hopefully I will be. But I think the idea of having more people know a little bit about pens, making it clear how really easy it is to get into them, how really easy they are to use. I really don't use cartridges for the most part. I almost always use converters, so I'll get into some. I have a few cartridge pens that I could probably use, but I just don't. So I will have to start doing that. I've got the Lamy, I guess, so that counts. But what I'd really like to see overall is just I'd like to see more people getting into it, and being involved, and knowing that it's around. I'd like to try to facilitate that. I don't think that this is going to help a ton. But like I said, it helped me personally to go online and find some videos that were beneficial and that people, had put out there that, they had a little bit of their personality in there, but most importantly, they were really educational. They think about the things that they're talking about, and they tell you about it in a way that shows how much they thought they put into it. And that really helps a lot when you want to know more about something, but, don't have a lot of access to any professionals or experts in your area. There's nobody around who's even really enthusiastic about it. I've yet to say blah 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 fountain pens and have anybody be like, oh my gosh, me too, I love those things. It just never happened. So 3 years and no. I think it's 2 people have commented on it in 3 years, but it's not for the comments. I don't care. I just find that interesting. So yeah, so I would like to see, if anybody ever comes along and is interested in knowing more about it and they want to find something that's easy and accessible, then hopefully this will help that. And that's sort of my plan. Yeah, basically that, just to help people who are where I was about 2 years ago, more or less. So, anywho, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with doing some fountain pen reviews, and I'll probably do some notebook reviews, things like that. I've just got a few that I really like, and I stick with those for the most part, so I'm not that exciting. I will definitely review all the pens that I own, even the ones I'm going to send away to other people. I'll definitely review them first. And, things that come along with that will definitely go on for sure. I also do a little bit of stand-up comedy, especially lately, and so I will probably eventually start putting some videos of that up, hopefully kind of exciting, but we'll see. And I guess that's it. I'm going to let you go now, but I hope you enjoy all these things that I'm trying to do, and let me know your thoughts, your feedback, be kind of polite, and bear with me, because I don't know how quickly I'll be able to get back to everything, because I do a lot of stuff. So, anyway, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you around, sort of.